Called and said the new board member thinks that we might have the pins wrong on the property and that we could get some extra parking space and she's going to call you. And you called me, and I don't know if you remember, but we went and tramped around the woods together on a day like this and dug up leaves until we found a pin, and we found out that we actually owned more property up there than we thought. And in the end, I think we got about 15 more parking spaces out of it, just because somehow you knew that. And that was the beginning of a good relationship. You've led us through some very difficult projects, and the last and maybe the most important being the new elementary school. That was not an easy job for a president to lead us through, but I can tell you that my privilege is to know some teachers and students down at that school in the life skills class there, and they are counting the days till they can get into their new classrooms. The teachers have already looked at the new classroom, and that school is going to be a big part of your legacy here. And whatever happens going forward, every time you go past it, I hope you know how much it means to those children. So I want to just take a minute on behalf of all of our colleagues on the board, and I want to thank you and tell you again how much fun it is to sit up here. Nothing further.
I have your legislative report, education and planning, Mrs. Mays.
Thank you. We'll begin with the student report with Adam and Samantha. Good evening.
Good evening. I'll start my report with Mountain View Elementary School. Mrs. Pellis informed me about the Caring About People food drive. It's a drive that helps families in need within the school district. Each grade is assigned a different item to bring in, and any items missing at the end of the food drive was covered by the $1,000 that was raised in the Penny Wars event. Latrobe Elementary School had their Officer Phil program November 7th. It's a presentation for grades 1 through 3, and it's just all really about general safety. The presenter is a magician, and he brings in like puppets and stuff and other magical acts to have the children have a fun way to learn about safety. Mrs. Heller told me that the kids really loved it. So, to end, Bagley Elementary School had their Veterans Day Assembly November 7th. The school invited all retired veterans from the FBW posts in Latrobe. The school also invited students' relatives who have served for the country. There were 5th grade volunteers who personally thanked the veterans. The assembly, they sang the Star Spangled Banner and God Bless America, and they also had a guest speaker, which was an Army recruiter of Westmoreland County, Gerald Black. And that's all.
Hello, I'm going to start with the junior high. All 8th grade students with parent vision started the PACE essay, or PACE survey, I'm sorry. PACE stands for Pennsylvania Youth Survey. It covers drugs and other risk factors about criminal activities with these kids. And it's done every 2 years. It's been since 1989. For the high school, 9th to 12th graders attended the homecoming dance on Saturday, October 21st. Shelby Wessel was named 2017 homecoming queen, and a surprising 675 kids attended that dance. And just one more important thing. We would like to thank 2 people who will not be with us in the next couple meetings, and we'd like to thank you for their service on behalf of the Student Council. So thank you, Dr. Laughlin, and thank you, Mrs. Owen.
That's very nice. Thank you.
Thank you for your report. So next is the enrollment report.
Ask her any questions. How many changes?
We can come back to this. We're going to have a presentation from some students about autism, and I'm going to ask Dr. Soltis to introduce.
I was trying to remember, about 10 years ago, an intermediate unit teacher who ran autistic support at Bagley Elementary decided to retire, and Kara said yes to taking the class. And since then, we've had some wonderful opportunities in supporting children with autism. Most recently, though, we've been working with some children with autism who are nonverbal. Many of you may be aware that language is a big piece of autism. And kind of drilling through that difficulty, children who don't speak tend to develop behavior problems unless someone like Mrs. Brandt works with someone like Mrs. Stenger to develop programs for children who are nonverbal with autism. So I humbly offer you their presentation.
Some students with autism
perhaps students with cerebral palsy, students that have had a traumatic brain injury. These are all students that can benefit from the use of an augmentative or alternative communication device. Mrs. Steiner is going to pass around some examples of what augmentative and alternative communication can look like. It can range from something very low tech, like picture symbols printed on a communication board, to something very high tech. So an actual technological device that has a dynamic display with icons that actually, sorry, I don't have a lot of room to get closer, guys. Sorry about that. So these devices actually have voice output. So when the students select the icons, it actually speaks the message on their behalf. Of course, we don't have any of the high-tech devices that are in use right now because our students take them home each night since communication happens everywhere, not just in our classroom. But you do have some examples of things that we've used with students in our classrooms. There are a lot of misconceptions when it comes to AAC, which I think is important to talk about. And the first is that AAC is a last resort for students that are nonverbal. This is absolutely not the case. Really, it's one of the first things that we need to consider. When you think about communication, we really need to think about it as a basic human right. All of us have thoughts and ideas and wants and needs that we need to express, and if you can't do that, just imagine how frustrating that would really be. As Dr. Soltis said, if you think about it from the practical standpoint in the classroom, a student who's 7 years old with autism and is nonverbal, think about what that would be like if they felt sick, or if they were too hot or too cold, or if the fan or the buzzing from the system was bothering them, and they weren't able to express that to us. We're not going to be able to get much authentic learning out of those students. That's why this really needs to be a first thing that we consider for students that are nonverbal. Another myth is that the use of an AAC device is going to hinder or stop actual verbal speech development. And in fact, the research tells us the exact opposite. These kids can use these devices as a functional means of communication, but oftentimes it actually helps them to develop some spoken output as well. Now, where do we start when we're talking about AAC devices in the classroom? How do we know where to intervene when kids are nonverbal and they're coming to us at the age of 5 or 6? We have this concept of core vocabulary, which is very important in AAC interventions. This has nothing to do with Common Core, but everything to do with choosing words that are going to give kids the power to communicate things that are important in their world. Now, if you think about the English language, there's over 100,000 words in the English language. So where do you even begin? When we look at the research, we know that 80% of everything any one of us says can be boiled down to the same 350 words. So if I took a sample of everything you said in a day, the same 350 words would show up 80% of the time across cultures, ages, socioeconomic status. It's really quite remarkable that there are those kinds of words, only 350 of them, that give us the most power to communicate. And that's where we start with these types of interventions. Now, how do we teach kids to use these devices? You can see by looking at some of them that the symbols might not be the most clear right away, and it might be difficult to learn how to use a device or how to use a communication board. But we have to look at what we know from how kids develop spoken language to figure out how we're going to help them acquire language as a functional form of communication using these devices. And that's where the modeling comes in. You'll be seeing some videos of this in just a few minutes. But again, let's think about typical speech development. When we have a baby or our own children, we know that we talk to them for about a year before we get anything back. So that first word, that mama or dada, that doesn't happen until about a year old. And we know that meaningful sentences don't really start happening until kids are almost 2. By the time kids are 18 months of age, they've been exposed to over 4,000 hours of language. That's verbal language. Now, most kids develop spoken language based on that, but these kids that are nonverbal, it hasn't worked for them. So what we need to do is we need to be able to expose them to modeling on these devices in the same way that they're typically developing peers-received language modeling just in everyday life. Now, if you hand a student a communication device, some people want an instant fix and they expect that you're going to be able to start talking on this device right away. And that's just not the case. It has to be used all the time across settings, not just in speech therapy, because in fact, if you were only using the communication device when a student comes to speech language therapy and you have speech 2 times a week, it would take you over 80 years to get the same amount of modeling that kids get with verbal language development. When we talk about this aided language modeling or aided language stimulation, the main purpose is really to model how to communicate using the device. So we have to show the kid that this picture board or this communication device that we're handing them can be a means of communication. You're pairing your spoken messages with keywords on the device. So again, we're modeling those core vocabulary words that we talked about. And for example, if Mrs. Stanger were saying to her class, it's time to go to music, she would then model on the device by pressing the buttons or pointing to the pictures, go music. Again, if we see a student non-verbally communicating something to us, like for example, trying to reach something on a shelf that's out of their reach, you would model his intent on the talker. You would say, oh, I see you want help. Then they start to make the association that by using this device, they're going to be able to have an impact on their environment, communicate what they need, what they think, what they want, what they believe. So that's just some more examples. And here we're actually going to show you some video clips and talk a little bit about how we're doing this in our classroom every day at all of the schools, Bagley and Mountain View.
Thank you. So this year, our classroom moved to Mountain View, one of the autistic support classrooms in the elementary school. So with it, I brought 8 students new to Mountain View, and I also brought tons of pictures and funny-looking things around the school. So one of the things that Mrs. Brandt spoke about was making sure that the kids are always immersed in this language. So you can see on the pictures, I have welcome to our classroom. Our core word of the week is, and that one is help. And it encourages people when they're walking into our classroom to use the word help or use the word that is our word of the week in natural conversation so that our students are hearing it over and over again. We also have them throughout the school. You can see the picture of the nurse. So outside the nurse's office, we have the words go and we have the words help. So that if one of my students would happen to be ill and would need to go to the nurse, we could walk by and say, oh, we go to the nurse. The nurse can help you. It's just, again, modeling that, but modeling it everywhere, not just in the classroom, but all throughout the school. The bottom right-hand corner, we passed around some of those paper boards. The low-tech communication boards. This is a board that you will see in a video in a few minutes that is showing you where I start. So I have a little 5-year-old that just turned 5 and came to me, and we are already starting with him to work on these symbols to have him be able to communicate to us. So he has his 6 major words that he uses, and at the bottom he has his choices of activities that he likes because we want to make it interesting for the student.
Here we go.
So this is that student that I was speaking about, and this was his very first exposure to any kind of core vocabulary or communication.
Say goodnight when Mama comes in to turn out the light. Does he swing his neck from side to side? What do we tell him? Go! Tell him! Tell him! Go to bed. You tell him. Go to bed. Ready? Does he up and demand a payback ride? Carson, what do you tell him? What do you tell him? What do you tell him? Go to bed. Here.
So you can see he's getting clear with picking out where the word go is.
Ready? Does he mope? Does he moan? Does he sulk? Does he sigh? What do we tell him? What do we tell him? Go to bed.
And it's a lot of repeating, just like you would with a
Does he
young
fall
child.
on top of his covers and cry? What do you tell him? What do you tell him? No, what do you tell him?
exposure, and it only took 5 times for him to really pick up where that word go was.
Okay, so our next example, this is an example of a student, again, it's a very early exposure to one of these low-tech devices. Oftentimes we start with low-tech just to give the kids some exposure before we move into a high-tech device, which some of our students are using. And this will just give you the example that, again, having that visual support is giving him the ability to use language in a functional way. And also, you'll be able to hear him, if you listen carefully, verbally saying it after he's selected the pictures. So you can go ahead and start the video.
Look, where should we put the shovel? Show me. Where should we put the shovel? Tell me. Where should we put the shovel? Put in. Good job. Put in. Okay, very good. Where should we put the starfish? Where should we put the starfish? Tell me. Christian, ready? Where should we put it? Good, Christian. We put it in the bag. Good work.
I can.
Where should we put her shoes? Can you take them off?
So we're modeling
Listen.
a variety of
Take off her shoes.
Want to target a shoe in each session?
Good job. Where should we put them? Put them in the bag.
You can hear him verbally saying these words as he's pointing and as I'm pointing as well. Okay, we can go on to the next video in the interest of time.
Good.
Okay, I want to preface this video. So I really do get paid to do this. But one of the most important times to model this is when students really want something. And also to model it in functional play. Because what do little 5-year-olds do? They play, right? So I work very closely with our occupational therapists as well as our speech therapists to design sensory things that our students need so that on breaks, we're doing structured play with them, giving them sensory needs, meeting their sensory needs, and doing the communication. And the parents love this, just so you know.
What do you want? Trampoline. Trampoline. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Look, what do you want?
To
Tell me what you want. You want more? You want more tickles? What do you want? You want more? More? Carson, look. Look. What do you want? You want the...
This is that sensory, or the
Good, you
communication
go.
board that you guys saw at the beginning.
Tell me. Good. Tell me. What do you want? Go.
My husband wonders why I'm so tired when I get home from work. And I think the next video we're going to see, the next two, which are really quick ones, are actually of an older student of mine. He just moved into the district last year. We got some pretty quick notification that he was moving in, and he was moving in with a communication device and had no verbal language. And it was like a big surprise. So we have learned together, which has been really interesting. He's used his device since kindergarten and is now in 6th grade. So you can almost see how far a student can come.
Pizza or cheeseburger?
So So he requests every day what he wants for lunch, because how am I going to know what he wants for lunch? That's a very functional way for him to tell me. And this last video is, again, of this student. And like I said, we had to learn together. How am I going to teach a student to read that can't verbalize words? And Mrs. Brandt and I have worked very closely with researching and trying to find out the best way to do this. And it's by using those core vocabulary words and not spelling out what he's seeing, but finding the words in his device. So he is reading on about a first grade level, so you are going to get to see him read out loud.
Carson.
Three turkeys.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah.
Give me a number. Number, how many? Is there one girl?
Make sure you have it.
And you'll notice it takes a little longer, but you see how many different places he has to go to find the word, but yet he's so quick at it.
Nine turkeys.
Go ahead. Last one.
Somebody else is having a problem.
You're doing awesome. Yep.
They really do get so excited when they're finally able to tell you something. It's really cool.
Good job. Good.
So in conclusion, thank you for your continued support to all of the special education programming, but particularly as we continue to learn and develop our use of ABC in the classrooms. Really, communication is a right for everyone. Everyone deserves a voice, and we thank you for supporting these students to give them a voice in our schools and in their lives.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. It was very informative and very nice. Thank you. Mr. Director, did you have any comment on the enrollment report? Thank you. I'm going to move for adoption of resolution number 83, and that's to approve a 2018 National Youth Tobacco Survey. And this is aimed at grade 6 at Latrobe Elementary School, and they need permission. So I will move for adoption of resolution number 83.
Second. It's been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes unanimously.
And I move for adoption of resolution number 84 to approve the Adelphi Federal Charter School Agreement, and we do this on your meeting.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes unanimously.
And our next curriculum committee meeting will be on Tuesday, January the 23rd at 5:30 p.m. here in the CSC. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Mays. Finance, Mrs. Elder?
Thank you. I would like to bundle resolution number 85 to approve the treasurer's report with resolution number 86 to approve the payment of bills and move for their adoption.
Second.
They've been moved and seconded. Any questions on resolution 85 or 86? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And they pass unanimously.
Move for adoption of resolution number 87 to approve a fund balance transfer.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes unanimously.
And move for adoption of resolution number 88 to authorize the homestead farmstead exclusion application mailing.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that passes unanimously.
And I'll move for adoption of resolution number 89, the debt resolution. And Mr. Watson has volunteered to read the debt resolution motion. So if we can have a second first and then read the whole motion.
Second.
I nominate Mr. Maples as the reader.
Resolved that the Greater Latrobe Board of School Directors hereby approve the following. A debt resolution of the Greater Latrobe School District authorizing the incurring of lease rental debt for funding purposes in the not-to-exceed principal amount of $15 million by the execution and delivery of an 18th supplemental agreement of lease between the Greater Latrobe School Authority as lessor and the Greater Latrobe School District as lessee and guarantor, consenting to the assignment of said 18th supplemental agreement of lease, authorizing the execution and filing of a maximum parameters debt service schedule, a debt statement, and related documentation for said 18th supplemental agreement of lease with the Pennsylvania Department of Community and Economic Development, authorizing the performing of all acts necessary and proper under the Local Government Unit Debt Act as amended, revised and codified in the Public School Code of 1949 as amended, authorizing a request for approval of said 18th supplemental agreement of lease by the Pennsylvania Department of Education, and authorizing and directing all other necessary and related actions.
It's been moved and seconded. Does anybody have any questions?
I think we should say that all members of the board have been given a document regarding the said resolution. And we had a presentation at the Finance Committee meeting explaining all of this to us and how this goes into the debt that we already have. And that we expect that this $15 million that we're borrowing now will not be totally used for Latrobe Elementary School construction, but we'll have money left to pay for the reconstruction of the roof at the senior high school. And I would like to say that I remember when that roof was going to cost almost $500,000. Now that roof is going to cost $2.5 million. So that's the reason why we are borrowing more than the total we told the public we would need for the construction of Latrobe Elementary School.
Thank you, Mrs. Eller. In addition, we have some members of the finance team here today. We have Mr. Westfall from PFM as our financial advisor. We have Mr. Tom Lynch, who from Lynch & Lynch. He's our bond counsel. We also have Ms. Alicia Reese from Janney Montgomery & Scott, the underwriter on this borrowing. So I believe Les is going to review some of the financials with the group, and then Tom is going to speak a little bit to the debt resolution and possibly explain what Ned just read to everyone there. So Wes, I'll turn it over to you.
All right, thank you. So I'm going to just be briefly going through this green handout. If you can pull that out. Again, this is for the third and final step of the financing plan, and the purpose for tonight's meeting is to pass the resolution that will essentially set a number of boundaries for the financing team to stay within. This includes the maximum principal amount, maximum interest rate, and the maximum final maturity. And by doing so tonight, that allows us to price the bonds at an advantageous date other than a board meeting date, which we're targeting in early December for settlement in early January. So if you could just go ahead and flip to page 2. Page 1 just describes in a little bit of detail the past 2 financing steps and parameters resolution as well. So looking at page 2, in column 1, you can see the financing from 2016 that was completed approximately a year ago. Column 2 shows the financing from 2017 earlier this year. And so the financing that we're focusing on tonight is in column 3, step 3, total principal amount of $13 million over an 11-year term. We will be including some capitalized interest, and what that capitalized interest does is it gives you some budget flexibility and it minimizes the upfront impact on your budget from this borrowing. And again, just to summarize, this will be used to finish the Latrobe Elementary School project as well as the senior high school roofing project. So if you look into column 15, you can see how we will be structuring this final deal, basically including your existing local effort. And so the plan is, following the drop-off in 2019, to aim for just under $4 million of local effort through 2029. Going on to page 3, this is an updated draw schedule, and this is including the updates from the elementary school project, soft costs, the additional district projects, capitalized interest. So it's all inclusive. And with this upcoming financing, you will be able to accomplish all of the remaining expenses and really accomplish all of the projects that the district is undertaking. And finally, on the last page, page 4, you can see just we're approaching the end of the timeline. Again, following the parameters resolution tonight, we'll be targeting a December 2017 bond sale with a settlement in early January, at which time we'll get the proceeds to spend on the project. So just quick explanation there, but I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have any. Otherwise, Tom will be reviewing the resolution.
Thanks, Wes. That was a good presentation, and I compliment your solicitor on reading that summary of the resolution into the record. And it's all about the bonds. It's all about the supplemental lease. We've done this now. This is our third leg. And as you know, the lease is a financing vehicle that you have to issue the bonds through the authority. And really, it comes down to adopting Resolution 89 by a roll call vote. And then we go from here to the authority. The authority adopts what's called a bond resolution. And they also authorize everything necessary to do the bond issue. And then real quickly, I won't get in too far, but as you know, just not to exceed is the idea that at some point in December or January, the underwriter leases firm will go out and price the bond issue, come back, have a pricing, working with Danny and working with the authority chairman, and then that's signed off. We have a pricing, and then we set the settlement date for sometime in January. So that is briefly a filling in some of the blanks on the resolution. So if there's any questions on the resolution 89 in particular, otherwise I would say go right to the vote, and we could just take up resolution 89 right now by a roll call vote, or if you want to wish and vote it in a later time in the meeting. So it's up to you.
It's been made and seconded. Okay, we're ready to.
Ready to vote?
Yep.
Okay.
Roll call vote.
Mrs. Elder,
Yes.
Mr. Hauser,
Yes.
Mrs. Mays,
Yes.
Mr. Laser,
Yes.
Mrs. Kozar,
Yes.
Mr. Music,
Yes.
Dr. Laughlin,
Yes. I'd like to say something. I'd like to thank Alicia for being with us tonight. And when we're remembering things that we've done while we were on the school board, Mr. Almer got me to understand bonds, for which I'm very grateful to him. Thank you for me, please.
Thank you. Congratulations.
I'd like to just real briefly compliment this team too. Every time we do one of these, it goes so smoothly, and I think we all tend to take you all for granted. I've been other places a long time ago, not in the districts I represent now, but I've been places where it doesn't go so smoothly, and we maybe have been spoiled that you have a very good team here, and they do a wonderful job.
Thank you. Good.
And that concludes the presentation of the finance team. So,
Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
you're welcome.
And the finance committee minutes are part of your agenda this evening, and the next finance committee meeting is going to be a date to be determined. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mrs. Zeller. Facilities, Operations, and Planning, Mr. Howard.
Thank you, Tom. I'd like to move for adoption of motion number 90, which is the awarding and concurrence of fixture equipment in Latrobe Elementary School for Rockford Security.
Second. It's been moved and seconded. Any comments? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? That passes unanimously, and I think we'll do the presentation now.
I'd like to introduce George and Hank, and they're going to do us a brief update presentation.
I'm George, and this is Hank, in case anybody could get us confused. We have. Good evening. What you see on the screen right now was the event yesterday morning that we had at the actual site of the school. We've had all the children from the 5th grade come over and sign the beam. This beam will be flown into place in the next week and will be there forever. This part of the beam will be facing outside, but it'll be covered by some roofing material and soffit material. So it will be actually like a
Time
box.
capsule. Time capsule.
That's been put away forever. So we're anxious to see that go into place. We're going to have the Tribune Review come back out and the Bulletin come back out and take pictures of it. The next picture was 1 month ago's progress report number 4 cover photo. Take a good look at that so that you can have it in your mind when we flash to this month's. Yep. Amazing. Amazing. What you see are both classroom wings. You can only see the front one unless you can look through that picture. You see both classroom wings are fully complete with the structural steel. All the decking is on it. On the other side, inside the D wing, they're already putting up studs, already putting up the exterior skin. We already have hot water piping. We already have heating piping. We already have showers being placed. The exterior is getting the first coat, which is the dense glass material, which will be the surface for attaching the brick to. It sits actually below and ties to this so that it keeps it from flopping. What you see there also is the new CSC completely constructed. Just to the left of that now, it wasn't at this picture, but now the entire admin wing has all the steel set and the decking set on top of it. So you see they're making some really good progress through all the mud and the rain, and it's really coming along fairly well. Okay. There's some of the things I was just going over for the project summary. The steel erection, like I said, is 100% complete. The picture you see on the bottom of that screen was me sneaking up a ladder and taking a picture from the top of the ladder. I didn't want to break too many construction or safety rules. I took a picture across the roof deck of the D wing. But you can hardly see that anymore. We have about 10% of that covered by the actual roofing material. So we're working feverishly to get the building enclosed so that we can start with the finishes. And I see that happening on the D wing within the next week. You also see here, what am I looking at there? Okay, that's the roofing material being flown. Oh, I'm sorry, that's the next one. Oh, okay, that's the location where the elevator is in the building. So we already have the structure for the elevator built, and we're actually going to approach them about coming out and getting anything that they can get done now on the elevator done. The picture below that is the electrical wiring. We already have the wiring in place for all of what they call home runs. It goes out to the classrooms. Each device has a separate location. We tie 2 or 3 devices to a circuit, and it comes back to a panel. And these are all the wires that's been completed in this area. We also have our kitchen wiring being put in as we speak too. So we're working in all sections of the building. Go ahead. This was the picture of the D wing or the E wing. No, that's the D wing. Looking out across, you can see how the structure took shape just in the past few weeks. If you've been going by, a lot of that's not visible anymore. There's real bright lights that blind you as you go by. But we do that for security and for safety purposes. We don't want anybody breaking in to steal from us and letting them get hurt on the project. So we do it for safety and security. They can be spotted.
So when George talks about the D wing is one of the classroom wings. And in this picture, you can see the skeleton of the building, of the classroom wing. These are the columns and the steel beams that hold up the floor joist for the second floor and hold up the roof joist for the roof. And even this picture they've made a lot of progress since this picture. If you look in this area now, as George said, there's skin going on the outside of the building. There's a parapet wall that's built. There's roofing going on. There's metal stud walls that have been built. So they're really moving along with this.
Yeah, the classrooms are actually taking shape on the first floor of the D wing. It's quite amazing. You can walk in and see where the teacher's going to be standing now. You can see the toilet rooms are all plumbed. We don't have the fixtures set yet, but they've got water pipe run to them all. So the guys are making a really good effort to get us all under dry and give us some place to work when it gets a little cold this winter. And keep us on schedule. Next. Here's the roof. The roofer's crane flying material up to the roof. This was an important day. That was about a week ago. And in that time, maybe 2 weeks ago, but in that time already, everything that was required for these guys to get started putting the actual roof down has been completed, and it was working. We've got a lead in the lag time here. They started working on that, got it completed to where these guys could start so that we can bring the roofer in, get started before they're 100% with everything, and they can just move along together like a dance team right around the roof. The bottom picture, if you'll notice, that is paint on a wall. Back from there. That's the painted walls of the electrical transformer room. The transformers are set in there. The electrical panels are set on the wall. Transfer switches. The switch gear box is set in there. It won't be fired up for another couple of 3 weeks, but all of this stuff is in place and is being protected daily so that water doesn't get to it. But the roof is in over that section, but the roofing material is not quite there yet. Here's a few of the graphs that I always put in here showing how quickly submittals are reviewed and returned, and not holding anybody up from getting the information that they need to perform the work with the proper material. And then RFIs is the next one, request for interpretation. We've slowed down tremendously on these. Some of them are kind of, are you sure that's what you said? Kind of questions now, just before they order a bunch of material and get the wrong thing, which you can't blame them for being safe.
So, and to read one of these graphs with all the dots and whatnots, the gray shaded areas are the contractor's questions, and then the darker dots are when the questions were answered. And what you ideally you don't want to see is a large gap between when the questions were asked and when the answers were given, because that allows the contractors to keep moving forward. And as you can see, all the dots are really stacked on top of each other, so it's moving along well.
And what you have to understand too, the first two peaks there are pre-bid.
These are when the contractors first see the drawings and before they put their numbers in. So they ask a lot of questions early on to refine their numbers. And then once construction starts, you can see the numbers of questions drop substantially and they're spread out over a longer period.
It's a contractor's dream.
Pardon me?
That's a contractor's dream.
Contractor's dream. Owner's dream. All right, here we go. Some more of these deck pictures. I'm just fascinated with all the lines coming together. Sorry about that. But if you can just look at the lengths of them there, just how long the building is, it really shows up with all especially the one on the right with the long lines just running forever. You won't see much of that anymore. We're about 65% covered with concrete. So our second floor and it already has piping up in the ceilings. It already has electrical wire being run. So it's covering up quick, and guys are doing a nice job. Financials, the most important number on that would be the grand total down at the bottom. That's a red number for your information. That means we trimmed the contract by $12,000. So we've been doing a good job as stewards for your money, and we continue to see nothing really major on the horizon that would change that number dramatically. And then here was another part of the signing the other day. Some of the kids really enjoyed that. Any questions?
Yeah. What's the red brick structure on the Ligonier Street side?
That's the dumpster pad enclosure, and it's also where the emergency generator and some other things go as well.
That's because I saw a lot of boxes.
Right. So it's doubling. It's serving multiple purposes.
Got it.
Looks good and is strong.
Looks really nice.
Looks good and very strong.
And you can see the colors of the brick.
Right. That's why I like it. It's like a little piece of what it's going to be.
Yes.
Yep, that's going to continue right on to the facade of the building. Any more questions? All right. Thanks for letting us work on your building.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yep.
All right, I'd like to move for adoption of resolution number 91. That is the request permission to receive bids for 2 maintenance vehicles.
It's been moved and seconded. Any questions on that? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes unanimously.
I'd also like to move for adoption of resolution number 92, which is approved renewal of the Tyco Simplex Grinnell service agreement. Am I pronouncing that right?
Yes.
Wow.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that passes unanimously.
The facilities operation planning committee meeting minutes are attached, and our next facility operations planning committee meeting will be Thursday, November 7th.
December.
Tentative, December 7th. That's why we keep these here. Straight. And the time to be determined because
Mr. Allen. Student activities and recreation. I move for the adoption of Resolution 93 to award the bids for spring sports equipment and supplies. It's been moved and seconded. Any questions? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? And that passes unanimously. And I move for the resolution number 94 to approve 2017-2018 school club officers and sponsors.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that passes unanimously. The fall sports recognition night is this Thursday at 7 p.m. in the high school auditorium here. Hope to see many of you there. Community relations, Greater Latrobe School District Parks and Recreation Commission meeting minutes are attached. And the next meeting will be Thursday, November 16th, 4:30 at the municipal building. What's going on, IU? Mrs. Hayes. The IU?
Summary of the WIU board meeting minutes are attached from the meeting on October the 24th. And the next WIU committee meeting is Tuesday the 28th of November at 7 p.m. in the WIU board.
Mrs. Hayes, EWCTC Joint Committee, Mr. Music.
The EWCTC Joint Operating Committee meetings minutes are from October 25th are attached to the board's agenda. And the WCTC National Technical Honor Society inductions will be Thursday, November 16th at 7 p.m. at the WCTC building. And the WCTC Joint Operating Committee reorganization meeting will be on Wednesday, December 6, 2017 at 5:45 p.m. at the EWCTC building. The JOC will meet after the joint area board meeting, and I encourage all the board members to come to that meeting so that we have a quorum.
As you all know, if you've been there, it's a great night. A lot of fun.
And everybody should go so there's a quorum. I was thinking Mrs. Dollar, you would say that, so if it's possible for you to attend, please attend to it.
Mrs. Elder's tenure as president or vice president of the big board. Big board.
Oh, that's right.
You've been an officer in the big board as long as I can remember.
Yeah. I never shake my head the right way.
Yeah, I know they always nominate whoever isn't paying attention.
That is not necessary.
For the other officers, anybody that's daydreaming gets picked. They always get Jerry Hughes over at Terry.
Thank you, Mr. Music. And board policy, Mrs. Elder.
Thank you, Madam President. I'll move for adoption of resolution number 95, first reading or intent to adopt board policies.
Moved and seconded. Any comments?
I'd like to say that there are the policies, you should check the numbers and read them. The 150, policy number 150 is a new policy. The next one is a revision of a policy that was already in place. And policy number 909 is a change in title of that policy. And also, if you'll take a look at it, you'll notice that we deleted a sentence that had been repeated. And we made the construction between the Parks and Rec and the library a little more parallel so that they're easier to see. So that's the explanation of what we did with those policies.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed?
That passes unanimously. Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Elder. Technology, the next technology meeting is Tuesday, February 13th of 2018 in the CSC, 6 p.m. Superintendent's recommendations.
I'd ask the board to move on resolution number 96, which is to approve the resignations listed.
So moved. Second. It's been moved and seconded. Any questions? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? And that passes unanimously.
I'd ask the board to move on resolution number 97, which is the approval of the professional personnel substitute teachers.
So moved. Second. It's been moved and seconded. Any questions? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? And that passes unanimously.
And I'd ask the board to move on resolution number 98, which is the approval of the support personnel classified appointments. And as noted previously, there are names that are repeated because they are going to be able to substitute in various positions in the district.
So moved. Second. It's been moved and seconded. Any comments? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? That passes unanimously.
I'd ask the board to move on resolution number 99, which is the approval of support personnel supplemental appointments.
So moved. Second. It's been moved and seconded. Any comments? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? That passes unanimously.
And I will ask the board to move on resolution number 100, which is the approval of an athletic office volunteer intern, and resolution number 101, which is the approval of a dietetic intern from IUP serving with Joanne Malloy.
So moved.
Second. Been moved and seconded. All those, any questions or comments on resolution 101 and 100? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? And those pass unanimously.
And under other business, as we noted, the class plays this weekend, Friday and Saturday night. The play is The Mousetrap. It's an Agatha Christie murder mystery. If you're interested in attending, please come to the auditorium this weekend. If the board members are interested, Mrs. Allshouse does have tickets this evening. This Thursday is our Breakfast of Champions here in this room in the morning at 7:30 a.m. Breakfast with Santa is Saturday, December 2nd at 9 a.m. And being a relatively new grandmother, I did take my granddaughter there last year, and it was quite the exciting event. So if you would like to attend and have someone to take, it really is a very nice event. Students did a great job. Bagley, Latrobe Elementary, Mountain View, Junior High, and Senior High concert season has begun. So if you are interested in getting into the holiday spirit, please review those. And there are choral concerts and band concerts from now till Christmas. At our reorganization meeting, we will be having our choir singing for the public and the board. So we will get a little bit of that next month. Our meetings, our reorganization meeting of the board will be at 7 p.m. here in this room on December 5th. And the committee of the whole meeting will follow that at 7:30 p.m. Please note, if you're a board member, that we will be taking the board photograph that night at 6:45. And then we do have our regular board meeting in December on Tuesday, December 19th, obviously here at 7:30 p.m. And at this time, I would just like to take a moment to thank two of our members of the board that are leaving us tonight. This is their last meeting. First, Mr. Nichols did a nice job of referencing Dr. Laughlin as board president for the last 2 years, sitting up here with myself and Mr. Nichols. We appreciate her service to the community and to the school board for 16 years of service. She was serving on the board when I arrived as the superintendent of schools, and I certainly appreciate all of the support and the work that she has done for the community and the school district. And in addition, tonight, we are saying goodbye to Mrs. Elder, who has served as a school board member, and she laughs when I say this, 35 and a half years. I note the half. She has served the community in obviously many, many different ways, not only as a school board member, but on various boards in the community. I know that she plans to continue to do that, but very clearly with service of that length of time, We just want to thank her publicly for all of her work that she has done and the benefits that our students have had because of her service. So thank you very much, Dr. Laughlin and Mrs. Ziller.
And at the risk of ruining my reputation of moving the meetings quickly, I would like to say a couple words. So, it has been an honor to serve as president and to serve with all of you, all the school board members I've enjoyed in various different ways, and Ned and Judy. The administration makes it easy. The teachers, all the teachers such as Mrs. Stinger and Mrs. Brandt, I mean, that just amazed me watching that for a child to not be able to communicate. I see in my practice kids that come in that are not verbal and the frustration that they can't get across, and so it just seems like they're not even paying attention. New parents of an autistic child, that just the sadness that they feel they won't be able to communicate, and for a kid to be able to say, yeah, I want a cheeseburger, or I'm cold and need a blanket, that is amazing to me, and I always love the presentations because it really lets us know why we're here. And just to all the employees, it's been an honor, such as Jillian, who runs the food service and always serves us well, and all that run under her employees, and the custodians that keep the place nice, and the nurses and the secretaries. It's been an honor to serve the students. It's been an honor to serve the local community. I thank you all for making this a pleasure to be part of. I know that we've, gone through teacher negotiations that I've helped lead up, and starting full-day kindergarten, which now seems like eons ago, that wasn't here when I first came, to the construction of LES, and all the new opportunities for the students, the autistic and emotional support. Classrooms, lacrosse and field hockey weren't here when I first started, as teams, the STEM initiative, to name just a few things. But I won't miss Darlene's early morning text to come sign last minute papers, but I will miss all of it. Thank you. Now we're ready for hearing of visitors part 2. Anybody?
Can I interrupt before we go? I just wanted to say something to my full-timer over here. We came at the same time. So I just want to say, in my mind, as long as there's a school district, everybody will remember the name of Kay Elker. Kay, I'm sitting here trying to think of something that would be appropriately significant to say about you, and I thought that if we could carve a face of the significant board members who made their contribution in this district onto the Youngstown Ridge like Mount Rushmore, you would certainly deserve a place. But once I thought about that, I imagined Kay with her red pen looking at the speech, striking out that line as excessive hyperbole. But I think I'm going to say it anyway. Kay's tenure with the board has been such a long one that she's been able to lead our board through the complete renovation of each and every school building twice. An amazing commitment to our students and to our community. Under Kay's leadership, Greater Latrobe became the second school district in the United States to install wireless technology. It all seems so easy now, doesn't it? But it was a real step. We installed wireless technology and provided laptops to students. This $2 million calculated leap of faith put Greater Latrobe on the map and has always paved the way for the school district to become a gold standard district in technology. And that's only one of hundreds of things that Kay led this board in. They say that James Brown was the hardest working man in showbiz, and if that's true, then Kay is the hardest working man in school board membership, because there was no job that was too big or too important or too menial, or too small, or too thankless for her to undertake. And Judy and I were talking today, and we were talking about what we were going to do, and she was thinking about who would serve well in committees, and Judy said to me, you realize Kay's pretty much on every committee. And it's going to be a big set of shoes to fill when you leave. And on a more personal note, if you don't mind me saying, you've been a link for me to the very beginning of my legal career, which was 36 years ago. And it's been a very, very happy link, both to the memories of the beginning of my career and the memories of my father. And I want to tell you unequivocally how honored he was to work with you. And I want to tell you that if he were still alive, he would be bursting with pride to see what you have accomplished and the leadership you gave this board. And I want you to know I feel exactly the same. Thank you.
All right, all that links down? Great. Hearing of visitors, part 2. Anybody can come to the podium, state your name and address, and comment on things not on tonight's agenda. All right, then I move for the last time for adoption of Resolution 102 to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye.